Hi everyone and welcome. In this tutorial we have quick introduction to Struts 2, just conceptual introduction, and next set of tutorial we have see how to write application with Struts 2. So before taking this tutorial you must have good knowledge about servlet, JSP and JSP filters and Apache Tomcat. So before going to actual definitions of Struts 2, we need to understand what is framework. What is framework? So here we where I will provide three definition of framework. So before going to actual definition of framework, I will give you a simple example. Suppose if I say you to cut a paper of dimension 5 by 5 rectangular piece of paper, surely you would do that easily. But then I ask you to cut 100 paper of the same dimension, then you want to do to measure for 100 times. What you do? Obviously you would make frame of 5 by 5 and then with help of it you would be able to cut 100 paper in less time. So what do you think about this example? What you do, you make a framework. So what is the basic idea of this example is that we, instead of doing same task again and again for same type of application, what you do is you create a framework, you create a frame having all those facilities together. So we see in this example we are realizing these examples. We have 2 points. You reuse your objects, you reuse your small cut of paper to measures to make your task easy, and you also want to do your task, do your job faster. So 2 points: reuse your objects and you want faster. So remember these 2 points because it also help you to understand the concepts of a Struts 2 framework. So I quickly go on definitions of framework. So first definition of framework is frameworks are a special case of software libraries in that they are reusable abstractions of code wrapped in a well-defined API. So it's just a, in like our example, having all those facilities together, which is called API, and it also provide abstractions because you don't need to measure all the time, so your applications is secure. And second definitions is a framework is a software of prefabricated software building blocks that programs can use, extend or customize to suit their applications. It is an object-oriented reuse mechanism that allows the developer to develop, decompose an application into a set of interacting objects. So remember, compare these definitions with our previous examples. Reuse the object-oriented reuse, and also use, extend or customize to suit their applications. It's a So I think you understand these definitions easily with the help of previous example. And what is third definition is that a framework tries to automate the common tasks and provides a platform for the users to build application quickly. So a framework automatically solve your complex tasks and provides users to build applications quickly. So it's also, if you relate these definitions to our previous examples, must understand that you want to you want to do your job quickly. That's why framework is coming. I hope guys you understand these three definitions of framework. Remember, framework contains lots of predefined classes and libraries. What is the advantage of framework? Automatically done your tedious task of application or complex tasks of applications. Give lots of features that are commonly needed by most of the project. So in today framework have all the features that's need of all today modern project. Framework is efficient. Frameworks also provide security because of restrictions of more and more data in a single unit, and it's a cost. It's a have cheaper cost. It's also have minimum cost amount. Remember one thing: most of framework adhere to MVC architecture. So let us know that what is MVC architecture means. So what is MVC architectures? MVC architecture stands for Model View Controller Architecture. Is all about dividing application component into three different categories: model, view, and the controller. I'll explain all these components in next slide, but here remember one thing: MVC stands for model, view, and controller. I will explain all these components in a next slide in detail. Perspectives. So the model view controller design pattern, also known as model 2 in J2EE application programming, is a well stabilized design pattern for programming. So model 2 and MVC both are same things. Before going to model 2 or MVC architecture, we need to first understand what is basic difference between model 1 and model 2 architecture. Then so what is model 1 versus model 2? Please read out this. The model 1 and model 2 architecture both separate content generation. Business logic. Business logic is nothing but is your database where your data is stored in your applications, or like JDBC and JNDI, from the content presentation HTML formatting. So both model view and model 2 architecture both separate content generation. Business logics is separated from the HTML formatting. But model 2 differs from model 1 in the location where the bulk of the request processing is performed by a controller rather than in the JSP pages. So in model 1, so look up this diagram and try to understand what is model 1 means, what is actual meaning of model 1. What have we done in servlet, or before we start from it is the browsers, it is the client, and this is the servlet part. This is the all the server parts of our programs. So first what's happened, client or browser makes the request to the JSP pages. JSP page transfer those requests to the Java bean. This request contains lots of informations like parameter, like user's name, like user's ID, like password, all of those things. Then Java bean is according to these instructions or according to this request, Java bean access data from the business logics. Business logic is contain lots of definitions, lots of method like get method, get ID, get roll number, get name. So if browser request get name, then Java bean is only invoke get method of the business logics, not the get ID or not the get password. If browser makes get username, then Java will only access the get username method of the business logics, and this after accessing the data, Java will transfer those data in those result to the JSP page, and JSP page after overall final result is forward to the browsers. So here in model 1, JSP does two works. First, JSP works as a controller, and second, JSP works as a view content. View means just view is a part of like displaying the results. View is just JSP page view. The work of view is displaying the result, reveal the result to the client. So understand model view architectures. This is the here model and view, control and view is all work of control and view is done by the JSP pages, and this is the part of the model. So here, so what's this is one is model one, all work controller work and view work is done by the JSP pages. What is model 2 architecture? In model 2 architectures, some task of JSP pages transfer to the servlet. What happens? This look of this. Same like browsers make a request in MVC architectures, we already know in detail in servlet also. We always start from the browser. Browser make the request, then our process is started. So this is the first step. Browser makes the request to the controller or servlet. Here servlet behaves as a controller. Servlet stands as a controller. So first request is make by the browser or client to the servlet. To servlet instantiate the Java wing according to the which kind of request is coming, which kind of like if users request for get a student ID, sorry, get a student ID. So if users request for a student ID, then control transfer this according to this request. Java Win is invoke the student ID method in business logic. Remember one thing, business logic is contain lots of methods like get ID, get password, get student ID, get student passwords. So according to those all methods are invoked according to the request or is a work of controller. After all, Java Bean is invoke the get ID method and results is transferred to the JSP pages, and final results is transferred the appropriate ID transferred to the JSP pages, and it's the work of JSP pages. It's the task of JSP pages is transferred to the browser, who is transferred to the result to client or browser as a response. So in model 2 architectures, all three components are separated out. Look up, this is the model, this is the view component, this is the controller component. So MVC architectures is used. So look, MVC architecture is efficient. MVC architecture is really, because if you are changing in control servlet in the control part, you doesn't need to worry about view parts and business logics. All three components are separated. So it's a really efficient architectures. It's also provides security So here you need to take care of 2 points. One, model have business logics have different, lots of method, lots of functions, and these functions is called according to the user request, because this is helpful in your struts. You need to when you study struts, because struts is totally based on this concept or this logics. So look up struts implementation of model, basic definition of struts or basic implementation of struts 2 based on MVC architectures. We know, we already see what is MVC architecture is. Just before 2 seconds, what is MVC architectures? So struts 2 is totally based on MVC architecture. Struts use a special type of servlet called action servlet, and one or more actions and action mappings to implement the controller. We doesn't need to bother about these things. We explain we explain these things in detail in next slide. So you don't need to worry about this statement. Look up the WhatsApp pen. So controller is a filter dispenser is in a struts 2. Filter dispenser behaves as a controller. So controller is responsible. Client is made to request to controller, and model action servlet or action is works as a model in the struts 2 servlet. So controller get the request and controller transfer this request to the model. Just like MVC architectures, if client makes the request to get ID, get a student ID, and get a student ID is a method in the action servlet or in the model. So what's first, client makes the request, and according to this request, filter dispatcher is transfer those requests to the model actions. And model actions, model have, you already know, model have lots of predefined method. So according to this request, model generated the result. Model generates the results. Like if client request for get a student ID, then get a student ID method is invoked here, and as this get a student method produce the result, and this result is transferred to the is transferred back to the controller, and controller transfer this result to the view, and view is responsible to reveal the output to the output to the client. So remember, filter dispenser behaves as a controller in struts 2, action servlets behaves as a model, and view results behave as a view, like JSP, AJAX, in model, JDBC, JNDI, all are databases parts, and controller, all this. So I think it's a basic idea of what is struts 2 means. Look up in the struts 2 component. First, filter dispatchers. You already know filter dispatchers behaves as a controller in the struts 2. Action servlets behaves as a model in a struts 2 framework. Action context, we will discuss these points in later tutorials. We mainly focus on interceptors. What is interceptors means? Interceptors nothing but is a just like parts of the filter dispatchers. What's the work of handle interceptor is that handle input parameters which is given by the client or user. It takes an input and forward this input to action class or model. Same things like what happens, interceptors here, action class client. Look up this. This is the different business service classes, like get id, like get name, like user id. So this is different classes. So what's happen, client make the request to the interceptors, like get name, get a student name. So interceptors not directly connected to the business service classes, otherwise this is a complex task. This is a really complex complex architectures. So one common class is action class here, because business service is different for different applications. But action class and interceptors are part of the framework. Interceptors, what is interceptor means, it's really need to understand, and it is really important concept. What is interceptors? Interceptors is just like method to forwarding the input to the action classes, like you are using get method, you are using post method, or you are using any standard method. So interceptor, the method of the forwarding is always same. Get id, do get, do post is always same. So interceptors are common to the all applications. So it is the part of framework. You doesn't need to worry about to code these interceptors. But what is business classes is different to all different applications. So you need to code action classes according to these inputs, which method you want to call, which interfaces. So action classes interfaces all these methods, but according to this input, according to this request, action classes is invoked properly. So you need to code for action classes. So interceptors is nothing but like method. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something from this tutorial.